everybody, it's Christy. I want to talk to you about something a little bit different today. Normally when I do one of these little YouTube videos, it has something very directly to do with creativity, how to make something, how to use a product that I find very helpful in my own creativity, a little look behind the scenes of something that I've made. Well, today is a little different. Today is going to be show and tell. I'm going to show you an assortment of treasures. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I have a treasure sale coming up in a week or so on my online groups. It's going to be January the 21st and 22nd, Saturday, Sunday of 2023. So if you're watching this and it hasn't happened yet, make sure you check the description so you know where to find the treasure sale. But I thought, well, okay, that's very, self-apparent why I would be kind of touting some goodies that I want you to buy. But there's got to be more to it than that, right? Well, there is. Partly, I have collected as an artist my whole life things that amuse me and interest me for various reasons of my creativity. I might find ingredients that I think will look really good in the things that I'm making. So that's part of it. The other part of it, of course, as an artist who, or a person who earns their living 100% by the things that I do that are connected to my creativity, finding interesting goodies to keep but share in terms of selling is kind of a nice strategy. I like stuff. I gather them up and then I look them all through and pick the best and then share some of the others with people. And it's a nice little additional part of my income. So that's nice. But thirdly, it is wonderful as an artist to surround yourself with interesting things. Now, interesting could mean so many different things to so many different people. And some people, it might be shiny, bright, sparkly things. Other people, it could be the macabre and stuff that's a lot of skeletons or darker subject matter. Doesn't really matter. All that matters is what do you like, and then surround yourself with it. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos on this channel, you'll know that at the moment, I live in the bedroom of my brother's apartment in Maui, which I love. It was a temporary stopping part of my journey while I was collecting myself and figuring out what I wanted to do next. Then COVID came, and lo and behold, it's 2 years later, and I'm really enjoying being here. There's a whole lot of reasons why I like it. It's been interesting, but I have kind of turned my little bedroom into a sort of sanctuary as well as a workplace. So I've got my store here, my studio here, my computer stuff here, but just recently, I've taken the last few buckets that I've had in storage, because before COVID, I had some stuff stored on the mainland and finally brought it over, and I've been sorting through it, and hence the treasure sale is the last of those things to be sorted through. But I've started to put up some of my treasures all around me in my little space. And I'll tell you, there has been a psychological shift for me this past month by surrounding myself with paintings and little knickknacks and little things that are treasures to me. Every time I look around this place and I see the things that I have collected and put in my eye view, it just makes me smile. It makes me feel settled. It makes me feel like a little snuggle of interestingness. So, as I offer these things for sale in this little treasure sale I have coming up, what I'm also doing is giving you that same chance to surround yourself with some of my stories that might make you also feel a little sense of belonging, a sense of adventure. Because adventure is amazing. And when you're a creative person, it's very important to keep yourself intrigued, interested, curious. Finding out about new things, looking at things in different ways. These are all really important things to keep the creativity flowing. So if you're ever having trouble with just not coming up with any ideas, go look at stuff if you can, physically, like get outside and look at nature, look at a museum, look at even thrift shops, and whatever you can do that has interesting stuff. Try to get out there and look at it. And if you can't physically get out, then get online and wander through gallery sites, people that have amazing artistic websites, Pinterest, all those kinds of things, to fill your brain up with the intriguing. Okay, so I'm going to pull a couple of things out of my collection. Some of these will be sold to my Diamond members, and in the description I'll address that. They are a special group that gets first choice of my artwork, but I also kind of give them the cream of the crop when it has these little treasure sales coming up. And then the rest will be offered to the public on my Christie's Creative Neighborhood Facebook group. All right, well, I'm going to just dive right in, and I'm going to start with something that's interesting that I uncovered somewhere along the way. Okay, do you see this little weirdo right here? All right, It's kind of dorky, right? This is one of the first pieces I've made way back in the day. So I started my sculpting career when I was about 8 with a ceramic kiln-fired clay that my father brought home, and we started learning how to sculpt and glaze and fire. And I started making things, and I don't know where along the way I was with this. I imagine I was probably 12 or something by the time I made that one. But I made a lot of little creatures out of ceramic, hand sculpted, fired, glazed. And that was a big part of my life for a very long time. I enjoyed it. People bought it. I put it for sale in little boutiques and shops here and there. And I don't really have any pieces from that time of my life except for 1 or 2. So I've got 1 or 2 that I've kept for myself, but I thought somebody out there might just like a piece of vintage Christie. So that's what that is. When you look at it, you can just think of little tiny pre-teenager Christie making her little clay things, much like I do now. Speaking of clay things, this is something I picked up along the way, and I believe it's a whistle. This is like a pre-Columbian South America artifact. Let me see if it does whistle. It does. So I knew this gal who had a little gallery, and one of the people in her gallery used to own an antiquities business. And they were always little bits and pieces of the antiquity that either didn't sell or had a little flaw or it just got jumbled up in something. And when he retired, he kind of would cycle things through that shop. So this is I don't remember now the details. It probably came with a card that told me where and what and how. And all of those things have been lost in the move and the shuffle. And I do not remember. I just remember that it's old, hundreds of years old, probably like a pre-Columbian, somewhere in the South America, Caribbean area. And it's a whistle and it's cool. So people have been making stuff with clay for a very long time. And I just like the face on that little weirdo. So speaking of people making things for a very long time, if you've ever been to the British Museum, you'll have gone into their gift store, because that is like one of the coolest places in the universe. I love the British Museum. I've been there multiple times. Anytime I'm in London, I kind of camp out there for a whole day, and it is just a fascinating place. I love it. But their gift store is amazing because they've got wonderful reproductions, and they've got little gift stores like scattered all around the complex. It's wonderful. These are reproductions of the Lewis chess set, which I believe was carved out of walrus ivory, if I'm not mistaken. These are probably resin replicas. And obviously they had the whole chess set in both colors. So one was probably ivory, the other was carved wood. This one I thought was really fun just because of the proportions. That is a lot of horse to pony ratio. And he just has that look on his face like, well, guess we're going to go slaughter the villagers again. Whatever. So I've always loved that guy because I thought it was just so funny. But this one kills me. This is the little berserker guy. And look at how he's got his teeth over the edge of that. Can you see that okay? I got to look and see if I'm blocking this properly. He's got his teeth over the edge of his shield like a maniac. So I have one of those myself. I don't know if you can see it, but up on my shelf where some of my favorite treasures are, I have one. Obviously, I liked it so much that I bought it more than once. So I have a second one that I can share with people. All right, this is another little vintage thing that I find to be very amusing. And this is obviously a little pull from some kind of a cabinet or a door or something, and it's got either a lion or some crazy maniac devil looking face. I do not know. But this one is a vintage. It's not a reproduction. I don't know exactly the age of it. I just know it's old. And I found this. I love poking my head into these places where collectibles might be hiding. And that goes everywhere from just little knick-knack shops, op shops, thrift shops, jumble shops, all the way on up to antique shops and whatever. This one was something I found in Colorado. I used to go there quite a bit because one of the people I partnered with on some of my product line was in Colorado. So I would stop down there pretty often. And there for a little while was the most amazing thrift store I've ever been to, or whatever you might call it, a junk shop, a collectibles place. It looked like a hoarder with OCD had cataloged every single thing that came through his life for several decades. Now, I don't say that in a derogatory way. It was absolutely beautiful. It was the most organized thrift shop I've ever seen, or collectible shop. So in that case, OCD, hooray. Things were categorized, like here are hammers, here are rusty nails, here are broken screws. I mean, it was just so well laid out. And there was really a lot of cool stuff. There were books, there were, vintage things, and it was different every time. So I have, over the trips that I went, and it's no longer in business, I have gotten quite a few little treasures from that. So that's one of the ones that will be up and available. Travel is a big part of my gathering journey. I have gathered things all over my travels. In fact, speaking of little vintage items, this one, and honestly, I can't remember now where I got this, but this is Art Nouveau era, so turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s, a jewelry box. So it's hinged, it's gilt, so it's just made out of like a brass, and then it had a more shiny thing, and I think at one time there was a velvet inside. It's old, so it's got like some little hairline cracks, but you can see these little peeking out ladies in that classic Art Nouveau style. So those of you who make molds will maybe really have a fun time making the molds of the lady faces, and I was looking to see if there was flowers. It's a really beautiful piece. I have a couple of these little caskets, I think they sometimes call them, that are basically jewelry boxes in different styles. And I figured I had one more than I needed, so someone else is going to get that beautiful little treasure. Another thing that's vintage, and I seem to be showing you a lot of vintage stuff at the moment, is I have a good collection of pocket watches, or pocket watch without the innards, the cases and stuff. They're always a really good place to put a little sculptural item or a mosaic inside. They make an interesting kind of frame for that. So I've got one or two of those that are going up for sale. Here's something that I made because the Diamond members get first choice on my artwork. And this was a collaborative piece, okay? This is a weird thing, and it requires a little bit of explanation. And I'll kind of get it close so you can see. This is Jacques Cousteau's key ring. All right, there's a reason behind that. So you see that there's barnacles, there's fish that are actually keys, hence the key ring, and then a couple of interesting lampwork glass dangles and the polymer clay little fish and stuff. This was a collaborative piece I did with Sharon Peters, who is a lampwork glass artist. Many of you know her. And she's a delightful, quirky weirdo, and I love that because, we need to be true to our weird. Our weirdness is what makes us us, and I love her weirdness. Well, we did a collaboration for a exhibition contest, that kind of thing, and there was a couple different categories, but one of them was to create an accessory for a famous person, living or dead. So we did two different pieces, and one of the pieces was included in the exhibition and was on covers of a few things. It was a like a big pocket watch thing. It was what is his name? Jules Verne. We did like a Jules Verne pocket watch where we had a bunch of weird kind of steampunky things going on. But this one was Jacques Cousteau's key ring, and I combined some of her lampwork glass pieces with some of my polymer pieces. So there'll be pictures of this when it goes up for sale. But some of the barnacles and stuff, as you can see, that's all polymer on top of some of her wonderful, there we are, lampwork glass pieces. So anyway, so that is a cool little thing that will be coming up in the sale. Speaking of old, we're going to go way on back to fossils. I have a thing about fossils. I don't know why. I just find the idea of things that have been here way before us, whether it be humans or prehistoric and, things from other aeons. I find that fascinating. I've got so many fossils anyway, but this was one I found in England. And we went to the Jurassic Coast. It's where kind of the birthplace of paleontology. Sarah somebody, whose name always eludes me, but they figure the she sells seashells by the seashore, tongue tangler, was talking about her because of all the fossil shells, and she was very influential in finding and cataloging a lot of paleontological finds. Anyway, so they had quite a lot of fossils for sale down there. Now, whether or not this is a fossil that comes from the UK, I cannot remember. It may be from another place entirely. But I found it really interesting. And I thought, as a creative, not only would I like to look at this because there's a lot of little shells in here as part of the fossil rock, but it might be an interesting thing if you are so inclined to do a mosaic on top of. So I could see there being other kinds of mosaic, almost framing it around or doing something fun like that if you are into the creativity of it all. So that's a little something fun to think about if you decide to pick up that piece. When I was in Japan, and I've been to Japan many times, I picked up so much there, not least of which were a bunch of washi paper, and not least of which was washi paper and fabric. I don't do anything with fabric, but they just have so many interesting pieces of fabric. So quite a number of the little handkerchief, drapey thing. I mean, they do so many different things with fabric, and each of the shapes have a different thing. Some tie up food, some are for, putting on your head. Others are for dangling in the door as you come and go to kind of keep the flies out. There's so many things. But I was, as we all are, very enamored of that famous wave picture. So this one was done by an artist, and it's got all that sort of bright geometricness in it, which I thought was just really kind of interesting. So again, I kept a couple of my fiber and cloth finds to myself, but some of them I'll be sharing with you, like that one. Also in Japan, and I'm getting down to the end of my list just to show you, and this is just a tip of the iceberg of some of the things that are going up. But they have several different shops there where they sell all the little plates and things that are used to make a meal beautiful. Because you eat with your eyes before you eat with your mouth, and they have a wonderful way of plating food or presenting it in special little dishes, having special bowls and things for each different thing, and it's just a beautiful thing. So they have a lot of little shops where you can go in, and there'll just be tons and tons of small little pottery, ceramic, porcelain, condiments, and condiment bowls and plates and such. So this was 2 that I picked up. Aren't those gorgeous? And I think they're porcelain with the beautiful glazing on there. Now, a lot of times I pick these up so I can break them and use them in my mosaics, but these were just way too beautiful. So I feel like I'm going to let somebody else have those and decide if they keep them intact or if they become part of something else. That'll be your problem, but I feel like somebody else will have fun with that. And then I think this is the last, but for no particular reason, I love boxes. Okay, show of hands of all of you creative types that are ridiculously obsessed or enamored of boxes for no reason, right? I don't care what kind, plastic ones, wooden ones, little ones, decorative ones, whatever. It's very hard to get rid of a box. Even if like, well, this is really pretty, my chocolates came in, it smells nice, but what am I going to do with this box? I'll just keep it for a while until I decide to do something with it, or it's like, okay, it's a cardboard box, get rid of it. But I do keep a lot of decorative boxes that I find along the way out of metal and wood and stone and such. And this is one of several that I have, but this is one I'm going to share with everybody, and it's just lidded. It doesn't have a hinge, and it's older. It's a vintage thing. I'm trying to look to see if there's a date, but I'm not seeing it. Actually, take it back. There was a hinge, and it looks like the hinge gave up a long time ago, so it's now a decorative element. But this was carved. Actually, it says there is some words right there. So I'm not even sure what that does say. I think somebody's going to have to look at that and see. But these were made... a lot of times it's like a little souvenir thing, or they were made to put a souvenir in, so as people would come to the Black Forest or whatever in Bavaria, and they would, pick up the little fun souvenir box like we do. As humans, we've always wanted something that shows we went somewhere, so that when we look back on it, we can fondly remember our adventures. So this was picked up in Europe somewhere on one of my adventures as a souvenir of the day, which was a while ago, and still a souvenir of the now. So perhaps that will become part of your treasure and part of your souvenir of my experiences. So experience by proxy. Okay, so that is some of the treasures that I put together. And I wanted to show you these, whether or not you get a chance to buy any or just be amused by my stories, as it is just a wonderful thing to be on the lookout as you wander through your creative life for things that are interesting, things that could become other things, things that can make your surroundings more intriguing, just whatever it is. that you need to feel comfortable and happy in your creative life. It's not wrong to have a lot of interesting things. And if you're a mosaic artist like myself, I mean, I work in sculptural, but almost everything has this sort of putting it together by using other things quality to my artwork, and has always been that way. It is imperative that I have the ingredients that I need to make things clever and interesting. And if you would like to see some of the pieces that I have made with some of the things that I've found, you will find here in my YouTube channel a lot of videos that are sort of a look behind the scenes or looking over my shoulder, where I kind of just explain some of the pieces that are in a particular mosaic assemblage. All right. So if this is reaching you before the sale, I hope you'll come and join us and find some goodies. If this is reaching you afterwards, happy gathering. Enjoy your things. Take them out of their boxes. Use them. Look at them. Share them. Happy creating, everybody. Happy gathering.